off there.
Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast, featuring Rob Sapp and Chad Cuddy Quinn, as we look back at episodes 5 and 6 of the Jordan documentary. Episodes 5 and 6.
Starts off. Wait, I can't. Cut. Reset this.
We are in for a long.
So before we get.
No, Ril, don't do it. Don't do it. I was messing with you. Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't want that smoke. Don't do it.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna give it to my audience anyway.
This is one of those. This does not represent anyone else on this show. This is purely Ril Quinn's thoughts.
Yeah.
So before we get started, I want to wish a happy birthday to my niece, Cree Encarnacion. She's 27 years old. Happy birthday. Love you. And I want to just thank these guys for coming on the show, back for some more Jordan documentary, Last Dance. And I have a theory on the Last Dance. I have a theory on why we're not seeing a lot of the 98 material that Rob Sapp desperately wants. The episode, of course, began with Kobe. And it, you had the whole dedication, they did the rest in peace, the dedication to Kobe at the beginning of the episode. Jason Ayer said that other than that dedication, that the episode ran as originally, that the material from Kobe Bryant was that was all the material that they were going to cut. That was the original material. So they didn't alter any of that material outside the dedication at the top. So you have they go into the All-Star game, 98 All-Star game, which would be at the time Jordan's last All-Star game before he came back in 2001, of course. And it's at Madison Square Garden. They go inside the East locker room. Larry Bird's the coach. That All-Star team had Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, Shawn Kemp in a Cavs uniform, which was hilarious. Reggie Miller, Tim Hardaway. So it really was a throwback. Rick Smits, who I forgot ever made. I don't even remember Rick Smits ever making an All-Star team.
Well, this follows your Indiana Pacers documentary that you're pushing.
Hey. They got multiple All-Stars, Reggie Miller and Rick Smits. They can tell those locker room stories, those Jordan locker room stories. You have all of these All-Stars in the locker room, but yet Jordan goes out of his way to be like, this little Laker boy is gonna try to make the game a one-on-one game, and I wouldn't, if he missed 4 shots, he don't care if he misses 4 shots in a row, he's gonna keep shooting. And he says, I wouldn't even pass him the fucking ball after that. I'll be like, dude, you gotta get a rebound. And talking all this shit about Kobe. And I just wondered, at first when I viewed it, I looked at it as like, he's shitting on Kobe. After a week has gone by, I said he was actually paying Kobe the ultimate respect by focusing in on an 18-year-old guy who had never been an All-Star, who was at the time coming off the bench. Remember, Kobe those first couple of years came off the bench for the Lakers. What were your thoughts on that opening and what Jordan said about Kobe and the whole energy, before we even get to the Bird, Magic, Jordan dynamic, but that whole energy inside the locker room?
I'll go first because I'll be brief. I'll let Chad have at this one. I hear that, but nah. The way that I originally took that, and it's confirmed because I saw that too, where the director was like, we didn't change anything, basically. They just put the tribute to Kobe and then push it up to the front. But in terms of like how that was cut, it was cut that way for a very specific reason, and it was not to honor Kobe's legacy or anything like that, or to honor him. I mean, like, you know, just it was it was Jordan being petty as we've seen pretty much through this entire time, and so he just wanted to let it be known how he originally viewed Kobe, and that was not no part of that conversation had anything to do with respect for the young boy at all. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, there's a couple of questions you asked in that, Sorrel, so let me get there. One, to Rob's point, none of this was done to honor Kobe. Let's just be real. Okay. Um, this was cut before his death, untimely death. There was only one intention to use Kobe dead or alive. And that was for Kobe's soundbite to say that this guy is the reason I won.
There you go.
The director said in my interview with Kobe, it's like playing chess. He wasn't giving me anything. The first thing he said, I said, yo, how was it like idolizing Michael Jordan and the sneakers? Like, I didn't like Michael. I was a Magic Man. That shit was left off the cutting board. Right? He went in, he said it took about 15, 20 minutes before he even opened up about Mike. He was talking about all this other stuff in the Lakers and da-da-da-da. Nobody cared about that. We just wanted to hear one thing. That was the only intention for Kobe to say, the reason I am who I am is because of Mike. That was the only intention to use Kobe. To your point, though, Surreal, when I watched it, of course, I don't think the goal was to pay homage to Kobe. But when I look at Mike in the locker room, he looked like just a gossiping girl. Like, we've heard the rumors of how Mike likes to get people on his side and smiles and uses his charisma. Like, you saw the other players in their locker room kind of feeling like indifferent about Kobe until Mike brought it up. And he was so fixated on this young boy.
There he was.
That it was like, damn, do you see something in him? I doubt it would be the same energy with Isaiah Ryder or Harold Miner or whoever, all the other supposed to be like Mike's. But it's like this guy was really bothering him. And if you go even further and you look in a game, you know, there's one play he gets the best of Kobe, and they got a couple on each other. But he was so happy he got the best of Kobe. And mind you, put it into context, like you said, this guy is coming off the bench, this 18-year-old right now. Right. So it was really telling to see how much this kid was on his mind, because I think Kobe speaks to, and we'll talk about this later, but like the media, Jordan gets really weird when he's challenged. Like, he's really weird about that because most people don't challenge him. So I felt like knowing that this kid was coming for blood and possibly trying to embarrass MJ was actually kind of in his head in a sense. So I just find it somewhat distasteful. Like, when I'm seeing the branding before the episode, like, this one's gonna be very special. This is homage to Kobe. They relate that. Come on, they had about 2 minutes about Kobe, and the whole time they showed Kobe was in honor of Mike. So I was like, okay. Kobe said the reason he is who he is because of Mike. Then we see footage of Mike scoring on Kobe, but this is honoring Kobe somehow. I didn't get that. Maybe it's just me. So that's all I got there. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I will push back. I'm gonna push back from a standpoint of I don't think that they I don't think that they wanted to try to honor Kobe Bryant as far as the footage. I only think the only honor they were trying to do is the dedication at the beginning. I don't think the footage was, and that footage was not to honor Kobe Bryant by any stretch of imagination. I don't think that was their intention by any stretch of imagination. What I'm saying though is I think I found it just interesting that he was in Mike's head, this 18-year-old. That's what I found interesting.
Well, I think like an important part of viewing this show and the conversation that we have about it is thinking about it in terms of intent versus impact, right? Like, there was a very specific intent, which I think we all named, but the impact, particularly of being able to view both of their careers as a whole now, and then after the unfortunate death of Kobe, the impact, I think, can broaden your perspective of how Jordan was feeling about Kobe at the time and what he could potentially see, what people saw in Kobe. That's the impact of presenting that footage in the way and at the time that it does. The intent is very, very clear of what they were trying to get out of that specific.
I couldn't agree more,
scene.
but I want to add one more thing to what Rob is saying. Intent, impact, I get it. But I think that the intent and impact was a little more correlated than we're giving it credit for. When I watched this documentary and they wanted to talk about Kobe and everything, oddly, this is the only person that Mike did not talk about in the documentary. We heard Kobe talk about Mike, but Mike didn't talk about Kobe. Mike talked about Dan Marley.
He did.
Mike talked about Clyde Drexler.
Yeah, he did.
It was ironic to have this relationship, but this is the only person in this whole documentary you don't speak about. Like, come on, man. Like, put the pieces together. Like, stop playing games. We know what the whole intent, going back to Rob's point, the intent was very simple. This guy, admire him. He's my little brother. I want y'all to understand that. He's my little brother. He said that.
And I'll flip it a little bit. Like, I actually, thank God I didn't hear any of that, the hype building up to this, because that's not cool. But when I was listening to the director talk about it and like how they didn't cut anything, actually on the flip kind of shows you what we're dealing with, right? Like that's even more.
Come on.
That's even like the word that came to my mind. That's even more inhumane, right? Like that's I don't know what type of person you would have to be, because I know if it was mine, shit, like I'm recutting that. You know, just if we want to put this out here, then I would just recut it if it was me. So the fact that it stayed in there, even in light of this tragedy that happened and how this kind of like the global love for Kobe was spreading, kind of like tells you how tunnel vision Michael Jordan is.
Real quick, just to highlight that last point, then we're completely done. This is what the director said. When I asked Kobe the question, Kobe first said, yeah, players came to me saying, you said you could beat Mike. Yeah, I said I could beat Mike. But then I find it disrespectful. Pause, cut. He didn't say anything about that on the documentary about Kobe saying he could beat Mike. This is editing. We took it right from, it's disrespectful to say that, not, yeah, I said I could beat him and he could beat me. None of that. So you have to understand when you're looking at this, don't get caught up in the romanticism of it. Like, what story are we painting?
There we go.
And this is not even in episode 5 or 6. We've known the story since episode 1. Like, I was not offended only because it's been so consistent.
Yeah, it's very consistent.
I could have been offended, and like you said, it could have been inhumane, and it was a little bit of much for me because it's like I have to separate myself from everyone who loves Jordan and like all of this stuff, and like, yo, he's doing a tribute to Kobe tonight, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what's up. So that was like a little disheartening, but it's like, okay, you got to understand what realm we're in right now. So yeah, I do actually appreciate the director sharing that with me, that there was some other footage and that there was a whole conversation that Kobe and I had that we'll never see. I do appreciate knowing that.
And also, I think the director is trying to get some of this off here. Like I would have recut this. I would have recut this. I would have. I absolutely would have. But Sir Jordan didn't want that to take place.
Yep, understood.
So you have you have the Magic Johnson comes in the locker room. You have Magic, Bird, and Jordan talking shit. We'll get late. I mean, we're gonna get into it later on in the episode with the Dream Team. Bird says, tells Jordan, when you want a piece of that today. And then Magic retorts like, okay, I will come at y'all. I'll come at both of y'all. Y'all, you basically y'all know what time it is. So Magic, even though he came in, hugged Jordan, whatever, still you had that little competitive back and forth with Magic Johnson not giving an inch to Michael Jordan. What did you take that little exchange as?
This is what's interesting for me, right? And I know we'll talk about Isaiah later,
Yeah.
but Isaiah's point was like, this is how it is. The Celtics didn't give me love. You know what I'm saying? Like, we earned it. Old school, we disrespectful, you had to take the throne. So you take in consideration Magic and the Dream Team and all of that, he still thought he was the man. And when I watched that, it was the first time me seeing Magic not with the smile and love and stuff. I'm like, ooh, Magic kind of nasty too. Ooh. And you got to understand, to be the best, there's a level of narcissism.
You have to.
With everybody.
Yep.
There's a level of arrogance
Yep.
and a one-upmanship that comes with that, right? Right or wrong, that's just the natural territory. You're not seeing a bunch of humble, everybody played great tonight MVPs. Everybody thinks they the best until they knock down. You know what I mean? And even when Magic, Jordan had to literally take it from Magic because Magic wasn't giving it to him. Even like, the Dream Team stuff, he's like, oh, you can't touch Jordan. Because we got to be very careful when we talk about the Jordan rules. It's a double entendre. It's what the Pistons did, but it's also what the NBA players said was accommodating for Jordan as far as the ref situation. So I felt like Magic's energy was kind of a little bit of bitter, if you will. Like, this mofo came out of nowhere when me and Larry Bird made this league. By default, I got AIDS or whatever. So I'm gonna kind of let you live. But if I didn't have AIDS, this would still be my league. That's how I kind of took Magic's exchange personally.
I'm gonna dial way back from all of that. Way back. To me, this is what this could have been for like a nice 2-episode nostalgia trip, right? Like, this is the stuff that I would like to see, but see it like all like clipped together, right? Like take us behind the scenes with all the legends when they were, relatively in their primes, talking trash against each other, playing everything like that. That could have been a nice story. I would have really enjoyed all of that. So for that little perspective, this little moment to peek behind the curtain of just them back in the locker room, like joking around against each other, like that was all fair to me. That was all above board. And I enjoyed little moments like that. And that's that's what would have been very, very entertaining for me to see over a nice 2-episode span.
Let me hold on real quick,
Real. Behind the curtains.
I got to piggyback off of that real quick. To Rob's point, that's how I started the episode. When they started the whole Nike brand and Spike Lee, I was like, okay, I can stay in this lane.
Yep.
Right? So this is what we've been begging for. Like, if we're going to go back into history and just enjoy all he's done, because he's done amazing things, I'm for it. So right after the Kobe stuff, and then I'm watching Spike and I'm watching this stuff, I said, okay, I'm here. So that raw footage, those anecdotes, that opportunity to see the best of the best, ribbing at each other, that's all cool, man. That was definitely some cool footage, but then, we turned it left. But anyway, it'd have been nice to see. I could have watched 48 hours or 72 hours or whatever.
But you can't take it out of the context of this show. We really have. I'm not calling this thing a documentary ever. So the show, when we take it in the context of this show, is such like a minor drop in the bucket because this is somebody's entire ego.
Yep.
On blast in 10 episodes. And so it becomes very hard to like view those moments as enjoyable moments because it's entirely Michael's ego. And so if you are wrapped up in Michael's great, then perfect. This is the best 10 episodes of a show you'll ever see. But if you're not wrapped up in that, then those moments become glaring because that's what you want to see versus, you know, what you're getting. And when it happens, you're like, oh, there's just so little. There's just so little of that. There's so little of that and so much of, I don't even know. Keep going. I have nothing else on that. Yeah.
So they take us to the 92
Yeah.
NBA, the 92 NBA Finals. The Bulls are coming off a championship.
Yeah.
Portland had a powerhouse team. They're making their second finals appearance in 3 years. They lost to Detroit in 90 and the Lakers in 91 in the conference finals. So Portland is in the midst of a nice little run here. Three straight appearances in the conference finals, 2 finals appearances in 3 years. Clyde Drexler, first team All-NBA that year. He finished second in the MVP voting. He averaged career best 25 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. All-Star was at that point in his career, I think he was like 29 years old. I remember that finals well, and I remember, you know, the build-up with Drexler versus Jordan, and even people like Scottie Pippen was making comments saying that, you know, Drexler is kind of like Michael-like. He didn't say he was better or nothing like that. He just kind of said he was Michael-like. And the finals happens, and, you know, Jordan, game one, of course, 35 and 1/2, 6 threes, 39 in game one. They win the series in 6. Couple things. I think that, and I'll talk about what happened to Drexler's career, you know, after you guys finish. But that series was 2-2. That was a 2-2 series. It ends up going 6. It was a close game, 6. They didn't blow Portland out. I think the series was much more competitive than what people remember. And I think that Drexler, even though he got outplayed, you look at the numbers, I mean, he still put up like 25, 6. He was putting up good numbers. So I think that if you go back and look at it, I think that, you know, Jordan did what he did, clearly outplayed him. But I just don't remember people putting Drexler on that level. I know, and at that point I was like, who was this? 90, this is 92. I mean, I was watching basketball closely. You know, Drexler, I thought he was a good player, all-star. I didn't remember like people. I didn't remember Drexler as being a threat to Michael Jordan's throne as the best player. I don't remember this. Now it's fine. Jordan wants to create motivation for himself. That's cool. That's what competitors do. But from a national perspective, it kind of seemed like people were trying to put Drexler close to Jordan. I never saw it that way. So what are your thoughts on how they depicted this finals matchup with Drexler?
I'll go first. I'll be quick. To your point, Ril, Drexler averaged 25, 8 and 5, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Pretty good numbers.
Yes.
Pretty good numbers in the finals. This is the problem. The NBA was trying to create another Magic and Bird type of situation. Unfortunately, Drexler happened to be in the finals. This could have been Mitch Richmond. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could have been any other 2-guard in the Western Conference. And unfortunately for Drexler, who never said, yo, I'm not in Jordan's league. No basketball player has ever thought there was a comparison. Come on, man. This is so disrespectful and insensitive. I was trying to find Drexler's information just to like, yo, come on, man. I feel bad for you. That's so unfair.
And Drexler's such a nice guy, too.
He's such a nice guy.
He's not talking trash about anybody.
He's looking like, no, I didn't say anything. And Jordan's going for blood. I mean, It could have been Nate McMillan. Like, oh well, there's rumors that he's. Come on, man. We made this whole situation up, and it takes away from Drexler's career. He had a Hall of Fame career.
Yes.
Top 50
team.
player. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was dope. No one put him on Jordan's level until the media got in there. Jordan only needed to see one news clip, and it was a wrap. And it was unfair. Jordan averaged 35. Clyde averaged 25, which I say both make sense because they're not on the same level. So it was just a wasted moment for me. It's like saying, like, Jordan got the best of Dan Marley because Dan Marley only averaged 10 points in the finals against the Phoenix Suns. In actuality, Drexler did what he's supposed to do. I've been averaging 25 during the regular season, and I got another 25 in the finals. I'm very consistent about what I'm going to give you. Now, if Jordan had to shut him down, if Drexler had to average 8 points or maybe 18 even, I'd have been like, yo, he really demolished him. He didn't. Drexler did what he does. I'm a really good two guard. I'm a Reggie Miller to you.
Where was Terry Porter? That's
Terry Porter.
That's what we need to come out
Kevin
of
Duckworth. Where was Kevin Duckworth?
What were they doing?
Terry.
It's like saying Pippen has a vendetta against Buck Williams. Okay. This is just not fair. That was ridiculous. Like, what are we doing? This is insane. We're trying to force stories, which is going to be my real quick plug to say the only team the Bulls fear was the Knicks. What the hell? I'm sitting here watching this BS. I'm like, are you serious? Now we're just making.
Slow down.
We're just making.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I know.
I didn't making this up. This happened. Now we're creating villains. We're creating storylines now. The Knicks and Clyde Drexler were really big accomplishments in Jordan's Wikipedia. I get it. Bravo, Jordan. You triumphed.
Yeah.
Drexler,
he climbed the Drexler mountain and defeated him.
I'm sorry. I'm done.
So wait, hold on. I'm laughing at Chad. I didn't get a chance to talk.
Okay.
So I think there's a couple of things. I think, to your point, Ril, like at the time, there was a national narrative, to blend both of what you're saying, that needed to be created, right? Because there was no natural competitor to Jordan and the Bulls. There just wasn't. And so each group, they needed to create. So Drexler kind of got caught up in that. That is what it is for the time, right? Like, we understand, being older and more mature, we understand why these narratives get created during those moments. What again keeps coming up for me is, why are we doing this again 30 years later, right? Like we know what Drexler's career is. We know Jordan's Jordan. Jordan's Jordan. There is no taking that away. No matter how much you build up Dan Marley and Clyde Drexler, that doesn't move the needle on any of it for Jordan. And so then the only conclusion I could come to over and over again is that Jordan wanted this in there for a specific reason. And that reason, more often than not, seems to be very, very petty. Very petty. And especially like when you bring up a Jordan and later Dan Marley, which floored me, and try to create or recreate the narrative of what was going on in 1992. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And like I said, again, comes off as competitive. So I get your question. I get your understanding for what was going on at the time. Absolutely. All that was happening, and was happening for a very specific reason. Why are we talking about this 30 years later, when the entire book has been written, closed, revisited, closed, revisited again, closed over and over and over again?
I feel that Dan Marley doesn't even know why his name came up. I feel like Dan was watching it with his chilling out. Like, me? He spoke about me, really. I don't get it.
But like Rob got a whole bunch of texts. Nobody called him. He should have been trying to get on every one of them shows.
To Rob's point, this was very intentional when Jordan had his bucket list. See, Jordan's list is not a regular list. Not a regular list. It's not like, yo, this is the topics we have to talk about. He's like, no, these are the topics, but these are also the players. I swear, Jordan is so crazy. If they had to say, we're not going there with Dan Marley, he's like, we're not doing this thing. Jordan want very specific. Jordan is only going to be 15 seconds. Well, I need those 15 seconds. I want people to understand that Krause thought Dan Marley was a good defensive player, and I want to prove to him, and I want to show the world once and for all that Dan Marley was not a good defensive player.
Yeah,
accomplished.
So we go to the dream team, and I'm gonna push back on the Clyde Drexler, because Clyde Drexler, on the surface, was humble, quiet. Jack McCallum, the longtime writer of Sports Illustrated, did a whole book on the dream team. He's coming out later on this month with podcasts that he recorded on dream team members that included Jordan and Clyde Drexler and some of those guys. Clyde Drexler behind the scenes was saying that there was no real difference between him and Jordan till Jack McCallum. And he was saying that he has the rings, but I'm just as good. So, but he never said that publicly.
I'm not doing this.
But you know, I'm just saying,
that was 30 years ago.
It was. But
we actually know how this ended up.
Jordan I have to be fair to the audience by mentioning it. I can't leave that out.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have to be fair about that. So you get to the dream team, and this is when. All right, to wrap it,
Hold on, slow down. What? How is that fair? Jordan has mounds and mounds and mounds and mounds and mounds and mounds of political and capital to build his entire narrative, right? And so Jordan has said over and over again how many people he's better than, over and over again. Clyde might have said something randomly behind the scenes, and that is justification for Jordan coming at him.
No. You missed what I'm saying. No.
Okay. I did miss that.
I'm saying, though, I have to be fair in terms of mentioning what Clyde did say about Jordan to Jack McCallum, to my audience.
Okay.
I can't leave that out. No, it doesn't justify Jordan coming at Clyde Drexler. I don't even think at the time Jordan didn't even know about these comments. Came during the Dream Team, so this was after the final. So
to Rob's point, though, really quickly, if we see a Kobe documentary, do we need to interview Ruben Patterson, who called himself the Kobe stopper, because he said that before? Even if there's any point to what Drexler did, we all know Drexler was not on Jordan's level. That's not even debatable.
No, so it wasn't no need to bring Drexler into this documentary. At all. No. Getting to so the Drexler the next 2 years averages like 19 points a game for the next 2 years in his prime, which and he really wasn't. He made the All-Star team like a couple years later, but after that finals was never All NBA caliber player. It was not like it seemed like it was never the same. To be honest with you, for the remainder of his career, to kind of put a bow on that. In regards to now the Dream Team, so they get into this interview with Jordan about the Dream Team, and Marv Albert's interviewing. He has a suit on and what have you, and basically Jordan admits to keeping Isaiah Thomas off the team without saying Isaiah Thomas's name. Like Rod Thorne's talking to Jordan saying, they're trying. First of all, they had to talk to give background information. If my audience didn't see the documentary, Jordan was not initially going to play on the Dream Team. They were coming off back-to-back titles. He was talking about he's tired, what have you. Magic tried to convince him. Rod Thorne tried to convince him. Rod Thorne's interviewing Jordan. Well, not interviewing, but trying to convince Jordan to play on the team. Jordan's basically is asking who's on the team. And Rod Thorne's going through these names. And then Rod Thorne, the light bulb clicks in Rod Thorne's head that he's waiting for one name to be heard. And he says, the guy that you're thinking about is not going to be on there. And of course, we knew that guy to be Isaiah Thomas. So then Jordan has the plausible deniability. Well, I never said this, and there were other people that didn't want, the documentary clearly tried to show that there was the world against Isaiah and Jordan's hands basically were clean. But getting back to Jack McCollum, who came out with these podcasts, he has it on tape that Jordan said that Isaiah, that he did not want Isaiah on that team. So that's a lie. Of course, they weren't going to show that in the documentary, but McCollum has that on cassette tape that Jordan said that I want Isaiah on this team. And we clearly know that Jordan and Magic were the main two reasons why Isaiah Thomas was not on the Dream Team. My question to you guys is, what are you satisfied with? What do you think about Isaiah's reaction to all this and how Isaiah has been portrayed throughout the course of this documentary? Because we all know he should have been on the team, in terms of skill and all that. That goes without saying.
I'll respond first. As we said last week, I'm fine with Isaiah's responses. I mean, like, what else is he going to say over this period of time? I haven't heard any new Isaiah audio to that point. I think like my main takeaway is that is we already know, like, we know, like, this is not a secret. So why are we doing this, right? Like, we know Jordan did not want him. He said in the documentary, I don't fuck with Isaiah. like this, like, why are we doing any of these, like, the back and forth and talking about who, anything like that? If there was a new angle, then it should have been brought up, and then people should be damn 30-year-old recordings or new record, like 30 years, like you have them here, everybody on tape. You can simply ask them a question and everybody can react to a question. And so especially, I think we talked about last time, the Dream Team stuff was absolutely a part of the show so that everybody else could eat off of it. That's the other part that, I think we brought up, someone brought up in the text, and now viewing it through that lens, it's not only self-serving to Michael Jordan, but it's self-serving to ESPN and everybody who can follow off of that. And so that gives you the ability to bring up so and so and so, and then to ask these questions and talk about something that we already, like, this was that we already know. Like, this was never a disputed fact about their relationship and what happened on the Dream Team. And so this then just becomes fodder for the sports talk machine and the 24-hour news cycles to go in at the same time as being Michael. I mean, like, that entire Dream Team sequence to me was for Michael to say, I don't like Isaiah. Just literally, just to point blank say it, and then they cut the footage however they want to cut it. All right, I'm
done. There's so many different angles to go here. I'll start with this. First of all, it was just lazy. There was no new footage at all.
Zero.
And they did a worse job than the Dream Team documentary. So it was lazy. There was no point of adding this Dream Team stuff that we already saw a million times over. To Rob's point, after we get past the laziness, there's no new angle, right? One angle could have been, oh, Jordan, you said what about the Pistons before that last game? That would have been cool if that had came out. Even Horace Grant, who on the documentary called them bitches. I was watching a special with him. He said, when I found out that Jordan said that about the Pistons prior to the game and then walking off, I probably wouldn't call them bitches. This is what he literally said. You know what I mean? So that new angle would have been cool. Then I found it unfair because I'm all about people telling their own narratives. But now when you include me in your narrative, but I can't speak on it, that's not cool business. That's not cool business at all, man. Like, don't bring me up if I'm not going to be able to really get in it. Don't take a quick clip. So that's terrible, right? And then lastly, it's phony. So it's so hard to get over things. I saw Shannon Sharp this week talking about his grandmother, and everybody's grandmother said the quote, but the quote was, you can only have peace with forgiveness or something. I'm paraphrasing. And this goes to my whole thing I'll talk about later when I go on my rant about Jordan being the most sensitive player in NBA history. Not even arguable. It's unfair because if I'm Isaiah, or phony, I should say, I'm so mad right now of this Leave Isaiah Alone tour that Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley are on.
Yeah.
Because everybody all NBA players, all athletes have said, you ain't got to like each other, but we respect the game. John Stockton and Christian Laettner and Jordan just said, I'm the second best player behind Magic. I'm the second best point guard behind Magic Johnson. You said this. I don't need y'all all of a sudden say, yo, leave Isaiah alone. I'd rather, and I would respect if you just said, yo, he was a nasty dude. We didn't want him. We didn't want him on the team. But right now, no one's taking accountability. Magic's like, I don't know. Isaiah had a problem with a lot of people. MJ like, I don't know. They didn't like him either. Everybody's pointing at everybody else. And it's so hard because Isaiah got to eat that. You know what I mean? So it's just like very disrespectful. I go back and forth as I'm watching this documentary we'll talk about later with Jordan's comments on the Republican shit about I respected his ignorance when he couldn't even be apologetic or say maybe I would have said something different. Like, oh, it was in jest. I like that defiant Jordan. Just own your shit. If it's real, just say, yo, yeah, I didn't want him on the team, and that's the only way I was going to play on the team. I would have really respected that. So, like, because you didn't give us anything new, it was just a waste of time, and it's bringing up old bitterness unnecessarily. That's all.
Yeah. If I was Isaiah, and you're interviewing me about this documentary, I think I probably would have had to I don't know. I might have just had to sit it out. Like, I think Isaiah was in a no-win situation to begin with. I think Isaiah is a real dude. Chicago, South Side. You can call Isaiah a lot of things. One thing you'll never call him is a phony. Isaiah even mentioned during the course of interviews, like, dudes would say something about me, I would approach them, and that energy would not be the same. Like, so he was hearing all the talk that was behind his back, and Isaiah's a real nigga to be even that's all it is to it. So if I'm Isaiah, I'm probably like, nah, I'm gonna have to sit this documentary out. As far as I know, he's with the NBA. He's doing NBA TV and all that. But I gotta kind of blame Isaiah a little bit from the standpoint of he was looking to try to eat off this documentary too. He easily could have sat this out.
Hold on, real quick. So sorry. We talked about this off the air though. The biggest issue was Isaiah didn't give me what I wanted from a soundbite standpoint. When you watch that replay, Jordan, like, watch him try to change up his answer. No, Isaiah was very PC, but he said, had I known all this stuff was going to happen, sure, I would have shook their hands. In the moment, we're emotional. His answer was so spot on. Jordan still tried to find a way to spin it. And also, real quick, I want to ask Ril, and to Ra's earlier thing about a new angle, give me more of this hate that you've told me you have about Isaiah. Is this hate for 30 years based off a handshake? Is that it? That's it. That's all we're talking about. Like, what else did Isaiah do? Did he talk about your mother? Did he kick you? Did you try to get an autograph when you were younger? I need to see that footage. I need to see this developing a relationship, this arc of why I hate this man to this point. I need to see that. And then I can be a little more compelled to see, well, okay, I get this venom that you're spewing in Isaiah. But based off a handshake, that's where we are? Come on,
I
man.
I think the Jordan hate, and it's not excused. I think the Jordan hate is Isaiah and the Pistons kicked their ass 3 straight years. That's where it's from. I mean, to be honest, like, to keep it all the way real. So the handshake versus them getting their ass kicked for 3 straight years by the Pistons, I think I definitely would lean towards the fact that the Pistons dominated them for 3 years. And Jordan, I think Jordan still holds that. Forget the handshake is great for theatrics. It's an easy angle as far as a narrative to make Isaiah out to be a villain. The bottom line is, when it all comes down to it, no one in the NBA beat Jordan the way the Pistons did. And I'm not talking about physical beat. I'm talking about just beating and knocking him out the playoffs. I'm not even talking about the 30.
I'm with you, but I'm saying specifically Isaiah Thomas. They were still trying to get Dumars on the team, and Jordan had a problem with that. What specifically about Isaiah Thomas, not the Pistons, Isaiah Thomas is the issue? And I'm not asking for those answers right now. I'm just saying, in theory, it would have been nice to see some other angles and perspectives of this relationship. That's all.
Here's my point, and this is why we just can't. We have to stop calling this a documentary. This is my angle right now, because, like, you don't come out of a documentary with questions like that. A documentary brings up things, talks about them, answer everything like that. So you have the two principles there. Why are we sitting here imagining why Jordan was frustrated with Isaiah? And why are we imagining any of this?
Agreed.
Ask the question.
Agreed.
Tell the answer. Mystery solved. So the fact that we're still doing this and talking after the episode is already aired is annoying as all hell. It's annoying. I don't want, like, we did this 30 years ago. I've done this already. We've had these conversations about why and what and who. The difference now is we have both of them at the same time talking about the same subject on tape. We should not have to guess about any of these things. And every time we guess, the more frustrated I get. Because then why am I doing this?
Yep.
Why does this exist?
Why?
Listen, but baiting me. I'm being baited right now.
Who made this? I'm there. He's there. He's there.
We all got
my water.
We all got baited and continue to go for the bait. Tony Kukoc. Kukoc. That's Rob's guy. So
Kukoc.
Tony Kukoc. And I'm
Koch. I'm like, y'all being so disrespectful right
I was
now.
about to call him Kuko.
Kuko. Yeah, it's Kuko.
This was the one time that Jordan actually gave him some shine.
No.
Oh, hold on.
I need to stop it right there.
You know what? When you started talking about Kevin Spacey, I knew you was gonna be off.
Hold on.
Wait, no, really quickly. Even before you do that, though, every time Jordan goes, yeah, I respect something, the immediate thing after, he did it with Marley, Drexler, but Isaiah, everybody he, quote unquote, gives respect to, he immediately cuts them next. So he's not giving him any respect.
No, to Jordan, that's respect. So
that's not respect. That's not respect. That's not respect to Jordan. Not even close.
To Jordan, that's respect.
That is not respect. It isn't.
To you. So they go through the Kukoc, bashing as far as the Jerry Krause angle, the game where Pippen and Jordan basically abused him, and he scored probably 2 points or whatever. It was not a non-factor. Then they come back when they played in the finals, which I had actually forgot about that. The second game that Kukoc played against him. He had 16 points. And then Jordan, gives him a data boy for Jordan, basically saying that he earned some respect with the second. Now, to get an audience some back in terms of Tony Kukoc, I think Kukoc's career gets lost with his with how much involvement that he had in those championship teams those last 3 years. Kukoc is a very good player. Kukoc in a '98 conference finals against the Pacers, where the Bulls were challenged. That's the only game 7 in the finals and conference finals. That '98 Eastern Conference Finals. Kukoc was the MVP of that game. He had 21 points, played great. He saved Jordan and saved the team. Kukoc in '94, when Jordan was retired, hit a game-winning shot. The infamous of the Scottie Pippen play where he sat down. He sat out the play because he didn't get the play call for him. Kukoc made that game-winning shot. So Kukoc had some moments in the playoffs and really kind of gets lost in terms of the narrative of those Bulls championship teams. Focus on Jordan, Pippen, Rodman. I think Kukoc was a very good player, their fourth best player over those last 3 years, and had a very good career overall in the NBA. He played like 15 years, so I think that kind of gets lost, and in terms of his narrative, and I'm glad that they did bring up the fact that he came back and bounced back in that second game, the championship against the Dream Team. So, go ahead.
Kukoc.
Kukoc.
Yeah, Kukoc. Yeah. No, I find it funny that you were saying he kind of gets lost in the narrative of history. He got lost in the narrative of this show. Kukoc doesn't show up until what episode are we in? 6?
Yeah, 6.
He doesn't show up until 6, and it basically, I mean, they've talked about Kukoc plenty of times. they have definitely talked about him, how much they detested the fact that Jerry Krause thought anything of him. And then when they show him, the first thing they show him is being abused. And I love how they included Wilbon's comment in there, because like the soundbite, the quick soundbite is Jordan and Pippen were out of line, right? Like out of line. And it's like, oh, they were being mean to Kukoc. And then basically, then the rest of it is for abusing Kukoc the way that they abused him, for making him look like a little. So every whatever towards Kukoc it becomes a slight and a dig. Like if you watch the pattern of how those things happen, basically there's no defense. Kukoc has no defense. All he gets play is the dumb was the Ukrainian who didn't know any of this was happening. He didn't understand why any of this was happening. And they don't even let him
lost our European audience.
No, that's how they painted him. No. I'm not saying that. That's how they painted him. They didn't even let him talk in his native language. They make him sound like, Anyway, there's a whole bunch of different. Yeah. So point being, I was very happy to know that Kukoc is still alive. At a certain point, I was doubting it. I was like, where's Kukoc? This doesn't make any sense. He's on that '98 team. So I'm happy to see that he was alive. But to the greater point, that narrative, not only was he lost historically, but he was also a lost narrative in this documentary.
Whew, okay. Yeah. Kukoc, my man. What I do like about this documentary, it's like a jigsaw puzzle in the sense of they give you the pieces, but you have to see the different story that's going on too, right? And that was a terrible analogy. This is the issue with the Kukoc thing. It reminded me of the Kobe thing in a sense. Jordan and Rob, I want to publicly apologize to you. I make a lot of jokes about you being Walter White. No, my friend, that's not even fair. Jordan is a demon. He's Walter White. He's Darth Vader. He's Bane. He's fucking kryptonite. He's the Russian. He's every Arab person in the early 2000s as it relates to Americans.
Disclaimer, this is a Chad quiz. This is just
No. I'm just saying, like,
You're gonna keep going until you find the most inappropriate.
he's
We was good. You started with Demon. That was good. We were there.
He's cerebral palsy to Michael J. Fox. Jordan, my friends, is a horrible individual. We talk about Pippen and Jordan, whatever, in the Olympics. But also in that documentary, Barkley's like, yeah, we were all mad about Pippen's contract and this dude. Jordan got everybody on that team riled up. That's point one of Walter White. Here's point two. After the game, and I text you guys this, they come to Jordan about Kukoc. He said, whoa. They said, Scotty said he doesn't even belong in the league. Jordan says, hey, that's not fair. That's not fair. That guy has some game. Jordan made them all salivating pit bulls, but then flipped it and went to his brand. Right after he got his work done. That is the epitome of Walter White. Yeah. I was like, wow. But the documentary, the way the stories tell, you have to pick what you see. You have to see it and be like, oh, pause. That's it right there. That's the chink in the armor. Kukoc was like, yo, I don't even know them. I thought we would be friends. Nigga, I don't know where I'm going to live. I'm dealing with a war. I'm like 17. And I don't know. They're very physical and aggressive with me. I didn't do anything, man. And then they carry the same hate when he joined the team. It never got to the point. Let's be very clear here. It never got to the point they were like, yo, it's Krause. It's not you. It never got there.
Nope.
Kukoc did say, and I read this somewhere else in another article. Let me be clear. It did get there with Scottie Pippen. He said Pippen was, and I think by default, like Pippen beat his ass too, but he was nicer about beating his ass. So he was like, you know, me and Scotty developed a relationship. He's always talking about my defense, and my defense wasn't the greatest, but he still took me under his wing, whatever. And I'm like, damn, why did you guys do this to this dude? Had nothing
Zero
to do with anything.
No.
I want to see a Kukoc documentary.
Yep.
I'm waiting for the Kukoc documentary because to Rob and Cyril's point, he's not revered the way he should be, but it's more so in this documentary. We're not going to talk about him being the sixth man. We're not going to talk about the stats and what he did to help propel the Bulls at all. He was everybody in this documentary outside of Michael Jeffrey Jordan is nothing but a pawn. Everyone plays a part for Jordan's legacy. That's all this documentary is showing. That's all. So it's unfortunate for Kukoc in episode 6. We had to talk about his 2 points and then his 14 points. And then Jordan coming to his rescue and saying that's not fair for Scotty to say he doesn't belong in the league after we beat his ass.
I love the Walter White analogy for a variety of different reasons, but in particular, like the defining characteristic of Walter White as we kind of got to know him over the seasons was just how petty and angry he was at everybody else. Just for, in a lot of cases, imaginary slights, right? Like the biggest thing is he wouldn't accept the money from the guy to pay for his cancer because he was upset that Walter White left the company because of something that didn't even have to do with the guy. So it's just like he created all this anger and animosity towards everybody in order to justify his bad choices, right? And so like Jordan, by any stretch of any imagination, is on top of the world. I don't know if we're going to get to Jordan on the couch smoking a cigar in his hotel room going, poor me, why me, blah, 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 blah. But by any stretch of that, there is literally nothing and no one Jordan needs to be angry at. Like no one at all. Zero. He conquered everything. Period. Done. End of story. My life is great. The Jordan story. And we're good. But because he's Walter White before Walter White, Jordan doesn't have a happy place. That's what I think is the overall, my overall takeaway from this. And that's why I love the Walter White. Like, there is no happy place with Jordan, like, at all.
I'm gonna use another character for you too, Sap, because we've been doing these Wire podcasts lately. Jordan also has some Jimmy McNulty characteristics from a standpoint of great at what they do, committed to what they do, but as people, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for others. It doesn't work for their own personal lives. As far as how they deal with people, they're gonna do what's in their own best interest. Fuck everybody else.
Yeah. So, like, the analogy would be like McNulty, the case, Jordan, the championship,
Right.
and everything else be damned. It's not a problem with that. I get exactly what you're saying. But what this show refuses to show versus what The Wire was showing was how self-destructive those desires were to McNulty. Like, over the period of the drama, we get to see like how those things interact and how they are so destructive to personal life. Here's what this show, the Jordan show, wants us to believe. They want us to believe in Michael's invincibility, his invulnerability, and his infallibility, all at the exact same time. So, again, to Chad's point, everybody is used as a prop. Everybody's used as a prop as an obstacle for Jordan to overcome in order to be great, in order to be like Mike, right? Like in the instance that think of being like Mike, right? Like, they use that success and everything to then on one end go, oh, poor Jordan, woe is Jordan, these things happen, Jordan's sad, everything like that. But on the upswing of it, everybody does need to be like Mike, because Mike is a winner. Mike gets championship. Mike gets da-da-da. So it wants its cake. This show wants its cake and wants to eat it too. And so while there are characteristic traits that I get with McNulty, the problem with this show is it refuses to show the negative aspects to how that is damaging, how that has been damaging in Jordan's personal life. Because up until this point, all we know is the stuff that we've known for forever, which is there's no no.
So we get to now the Republicans buy sneakers comment. You have Jesse Helms running for office against the other guy's last name was Gant. Jesse Helms, of course, in North Carolina, was a known racist. Jordan basically refuses to involve himself in that, supporting Gant over Helms. Now, again, it wasn't like it was running for office. So Jordan does not support, just kind of tries to stay out of it. You have people in the documentary, Nathan McCall, come at him from that standpoint. Then he makes a mistake he made a couple mistakes. Number one was the Republican buy sneakers comment was a mistake. And also, I thought the donating money towards Gant's campaign was a mistake, because it was disingenuous. Like, you just want to throw some money at it and hope that it was just going to go away, even though your mom, even though your mom gave you that advice to do it, still didn't have to do it. What were your thoughts on that? How that was covered? Looking back on it years later. I know, Chad, you had a lot on that.
Yeah, I mean, this, I'm not gonna lie, this is a very sensitive subject for me.
I mean, this honestly is where it's time to go in. Like everything else, putting all that aside, this is actually the meat of everything we've talked about right here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. I'll be brief, but I think, first of all, there's a narrative that's floating around that is not accurate about Jordan just was all about basketball and wanted to win. That's true, but Jordan was about his brand first and foremost, even above basketball. Jordan's about his brand, which included basketball in a sense. But what I hated about this situation, and we'll get into the media and Jordan's relationship with the media. It's like we get in these conversations in the Black community all the time.
All the
We
time.
we shouldn't try to make certain people who they're not, right? Even Charles Barkley on a lesser note when he said, "I'm not a role model" and all of this type of stuff, right? But the fact,
And then had an entire advertising campaign built off of that. By the way, I thought
exactly,
about that. I was
exactly.
yeah.
But the bottom line is, and we all are educators on this call right now. You are an influencer, whether you want to be or not,
Facts.
right? So heavy is the crown. The comment that was made in jest, I could have dealt with in two ways. If the comment wasn't made at all, if he just simply said no comment, I don't want to get into politics. That's one thing. Or two, if in the documentary he could at least say, you know what, that probably wasn't important, good taste, and being a little bit remorseful of that situation. But I wasn't at all shocked because Jordan has been shown us who he is. I get more frustrated with the apologists when it comes to Jordan and that he's above any type of criticism or ridicule. A known racist, you throw some empty money, you tell your mom, like, look, here, I'll sign a check. You know what I'm saying? And then we sit up here, even in this week, um, uh, Jordan's being sold and cats outside, long lines against social distancing. Um, the young Black man that was killed recently jogging. I'm not asking Jordan to be a politician or an activist, right? But I said, damn, and I was watching this with my wife, and I hate to like bring up LeBron and all these other players, but when LeBron got that comment from the reporter who said, shut up and dribble, I was like, man, I wonder how Jordan would respond to that comment if they told him to shut up and dribble, because he's just an athlete, right? And I told you, I was the only kid I knew that did not like Jordan for these reasons. I was very Michael from Good Times militant when I looked at these situations. And then I remember there was a commercial that he did with Nike. He said, they said that it's God given this talent. No, I worked on it. And he did a whole bunch of other phrases in that. And it bothered me. And I said, damn, what is this dude's line? What is his line? Like, what do you actually care about? I had no idea. And he has this I don't know. Like I said, my thoughts are very convoluted because I look at his power and his influence, and I know I'm not trying to bring up Jay-Z in that sense right now, but I had to like come to grips with certain people that I looked at that had power and influence and what they do with that power and influence. And it's very frustrating to me because I'm like, damn, I can't tell anybody to do with their power and influence. The one thing I took, and I'm done after this, from that moment is when Jordan, this is the realest moment I've had with him in these 6 episodes, when he said, well, maybe I'm just not for you. I actually respected that. That was the one line this whole time.
Yes.
I said, I completely concur with you, sir. I'm not mad at anybody. Like, I'm not going like, yo, you ain't my man if you like Jordan. I don't care about none of that. That was the one line I said, you know what? I can agree with you. I don't fuck with you. I don't like anything about you or your politics or what you supposedly stand for. So you get none of my energy. So anybody else that want to rock with him, that's cool. But when he said that, like, yo, maybe I'm just not for you. You right. You're not for me. So that's all I took from that. Like, this nigga, you knew what you grew up in. You know what I'm saying? You know you had an opportunity. So it is what it is.
So all of that agreed upon. And so I think the angle that I look at this at is, again, like, you're like, nobody forced you to do this. You're bringing this back up. You're bringing this back up in front of me and then asking me to think about it, analyze it, and look at it as a piece of content on my television screen. And so when I look at it like that, like, to me, like as you were talking, Chad, one thing struck out to me when they were going through, you know, Spike Lee and the Jordans, original, everything like that. And there's that initial, again, this is where I struggle with this as a piece of entertainment. There's that initial nostalgic piece, like, oh, I remember those commercials and everything like that. It's cool. And then there's the actual impact, right? Like, I also remember people getting their asses whooped over Jordans. And I remember, you know, people dying over Jordans and everything like that. And so it's, again, this part of like, we're not going to tell the whole entire story. And it was never as clear as it was here. Like, even damn the gambling, like, this is the meat of it. Like, this is for real. Like, this was a chance to explore something. And it didn't even necessarily have to be all on Jordan. Like, you could have explored like what was going on in North Carolina at this time. What did that mean to have this racist motherfucker like out here calling us mud, whatever the fuck he was calling us and everything like that? And then what was that impact? And then what was the public outcry, personal and both on Jordan and everything like that? There was so much to explore in here, and to only give it that little bit of time and just to give it that little light touch. I mean, I expected Jordan's denial and whatever, like all of that didn't actually mean anything to me in terms of when you make the statement. Y'all know who my family is. When you make the statement, Republicans buy sneakers too, way back when, Jordan has always been cemented in my mind of who he is as a person outside of being an entertainer, basketball player. So that will always be where it is. He can put every non-denial. And then also I'm like, do we know he sent that check? We're all just really taking him at his word. He said it on camera, and yeah, I bet people could follow up, but did he really? That just popped my really. Anyway, but the greater point is like this is where a show could potentially become a documentary, because you're exploring something, you're digging everything like that. And that's why I refuse to call this a documentary, because that was a moment that needed to be explored, and they refused to explore it. So for all the different reasons that you're saying, particularly because it would make Michael Jordan uncomfortable and it would hurt the Nike brand, and we're not about hurting the Nike brand ever in life.
And Rob, you're completely right. I want to say this real quick, Cyril. This is what I love about one of the points Rob made. A lot of times so far, these conversations, these episodes, we've been talking about what we wanted to see, the good, the bad, the ugly. This could have been explored in a way not to make Jordan even a villain.
Nope.
Right? When President Obama spoke about it, you saw the discomfort he spoke with. About like, damn, what is the balance? Because once you're up here, they're going to start picking at you, and you got to da-da-da-da-da. Everyone's so uncomfortable with the truth, and also just talking about Jordan in general. And then Michael Wilbon goes on. I'm watching him on First Take about this comment. He said, listen, man, could he have said something different? Possibly. But he's a billionaire. And anybody that tells me that they would want to be a billionaire, I'll tell them they can go to hell.
There you go.
And like, the problem I have with that is like, first of all,
definitely sounds like Wilbon.
No, I'm telling you, you can look up.
No, that sounds. No, I don't have to look it up.
Yeah, you can look up the clips, and I said, listen,
absolutely sounds like him. Yep, absolutely.
I said the whole idea of capitalism is white principles.
Right.
So if we're talking about this individual, me, it's not going to be a lot of us, right?
Very tiny.
Just like basic mathematics. So we're saying we want to raise a whole bunch of people with the mentality of Jordan. Is that the goal of the black culture? You know what I'm saying? So like it's very nuanced. I'm not trying to make it all black and white, but it's like when you have these figures, then you have other people saying, no, I'm all about that too. I'm all about me too. And this is why we are where we are. So it's very detrimental. And now it's like, I told you this before, Whitlock about LeBron coming out this week saying he's doing that to separate himself from Jordan and all this other bullshit. What Jordan's done in the last 5 to 6 years is he saw the LeBrons, the Chris Pauls, and all these people giving to charity. He's giving empty money. These are nothing but tax write-offs. So I'm not even going to sit up here and say, did he get a check? I know you're saying that in jest, but I'm like, He probably did, but what is that?
No,
Yeah.
That's a drop in the bucket, man.
no. His word and his power and his that speaks volumes over whatever money that he could. But the big point is, three of us are sitting here and having this conversation. That could have been like exactly what you're talking about in a variety of different voices. Black men of all black men, women, of all different statures and places in life, actually having this conversation and being able to speak to it. How powerful would that have been? Right? Like this was rich, a rich amount of material to be explored and be explored in a meaningful way and being explored in a way that did not have to go against the brand, go against Jordan, go against everybody. You know, like a big piece of this, as you were talking, Chad, is all right. You're a billionaire black man. You made it to this point. What were the sacrifices? What were the things that needed to be like? There's so many different ways in which to have gone about it. But to just make it as cookie cutter and light touch bullshit is just like shows exactly what this is. And this is a show, not a documentary. I'll call it a documentary.
No, it's not. It's not a documentary. No, it's not. It's not a documentary. Horace Grant. So Horace Grant, Jordan accuses Horace Grant of basically giving information to Sam Smith. Sam Smith, the legendary Chicago sports writer who was a government investigative reporter in Washington before he became a sports writer, and who wrote the book The Jordan Rules, which depicted the 1990-91 season and really gave the first taste of this is not a nice guy, or this really gave the first stain in Michael Jordan's career per se, outside of losing in the beginning of his career. And he says that Horace Grant, the documentary said that Jordan says that Horace Grant gave him the information, gave Sam Smith all this information. I did some deep diving with that as far as Sam Smith's perspective. Sam Smith did a podcast and basically said it was, he was getting information from a lot of people on that team. Cartwright, Horace Grant. He went to college with one of the assistant coaches who was on the staff. And this is what Sam Smith does. He's an investigative reporter by nature. So he comes out with that book. First of all, the whole Horace Grant denies giving any information to Sam Smith in the documentary. And Jordan paints this as, the narrative begins of, well, they're trying to, not begins, but continues of, well, this is basically, you're at the top, you're trying to tear me down. You had the other brother, I forgot the name of the brother that was on here who was co-signing. He had like a gray goatee, whatever, saying that trying to turn this basically into a black, taking the black man down and shit like that and what have you, basically co-signing for Jordan. That podcast that Sam Smith did in terms of what was going on during that season was telling as far as who Jordan was. And you could tell that Jordan, listen, Sam Smith was getting information from Jordan as well. Sam Smith, I don't think people realize Sam Smith used to play golf with Jordan at times. So the information that was coming out that book was legitimate to me, reviewing, knowing who Sam Smith was and his background. And he was a beat reporter for Chicago. Those beat reporters know what's going on. They're in the locker room, they're traveling, they know, they're well sourced for the most part. This is before the blog, Twitter, that whole ordeal where you could only take information with a grain of salt in 2020. Now, you actually had to do some real life reporting back then to get this information out. What are your thoughts on Horace Grant, Sam Smith, and this now seemingly turn that it took in terms of Jordan's reputation?
Okay, I'll go first on this one. Um, yes, I text you guys. I think I did. Watching this, it's like it's like the movie Clue. First of all, Jordan didn't deny this stuff. He just said who said it.
Yeah.
Right. Let's be very clear.
No, he did no. He did not deny
No,
it.
but that's not amplified enough.
No, it's not. No,
Like,
but that's an important point you made. He did not deny it.
so this stuff happened with 8 to 10 players. Very peculiar that you only wanted to point out Horace Grant. I mean, you punched Steve Kerr in the face. I would at least say, damn, maybe Steve Kerr said something. I mean, it's like it's a number of Craig Hodges, Phil Jackson. At times you didn't listen to him, and Phil Jackson's my whole angle anyway. But I'm like, all of these other personalities, it speaks to what Rob was talking about earlier. Like with Jordan's intentional moves, he knows who his targets are. So everything is very specific. The Sam Smith stuff, I want to come at Horace Grant. He said it so matter-of-factly. Oh, Horace Grant said it. That was it. That was the clip. Horace Grant told, and he's the only person on this book that let out all of these locker rumors. You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, first let's address, if this is true, what was your thinking? Because there's the thing about this, fanatics are apologetic, right? Like they have an insane level of respect and denial that they deal with in loving whoever they love.
Right.
So the people that love Jordan wouldn't have thought less of him. He actually might have been elevated in a sense. Because they would have rationalized, well, no, he beat up these people because he was trying to better them. Yeah. They would have found a way to spin it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I'm watching this, I'm like, this is very interesting. And like I told you guys, offline, when Phil Jackson did this tell-all book with Kobe Bryant, I'm like, okay, well, there's some people who have done these things. We've seen a pattern. And Jordan, you've made so many enemies. You're not a friend of anybody on your team. So why did you have to just say, this has to be Horace Grant? Because Horace Grant and Sam Smith are cool. Sam Smith is cool with a lot of people. You know what I mean? I just felt like it was unnecessary to use this moment to talk about Horace Grant. But it was more so, I just wanted to, and like Rob said this earlier, this is why this is not a documentary. You said, and I quote Ril, I don't quote, I'm paraphrasing. I did some digging and I saw a podcast. Who watches a documentary and has to dig? I do not understand this. We all have sent each other footage, articles, YouTube clips as we're watching this documentary. Like this is like a scavenger hunt that I'm not understanding. It's like this show is Cliff Notes. And we sit up here like, oh, now after watching this, let me go research Kukoc, Marley, Drexler stats. We're researching everything that he's saying to get to the truth. What is going on?
We were invited for dinner, and then it's the scavenger hunt. Now we got to go find our food. Like, what? Why? Why? I just came to eat dinner. Why do I have to look for all this other
You were
stuff?
just given a recipe. That's it. The dinner came with the recipe. Figure it out.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Who are we talking about? Horseback. Yeah. I mean, like, look, I'm going to be just very consistent on my points. This one's very, very simple to me. Why are we talking about 91, 92, and 93? So we can bring up stupid little points like this. The direct cut is literally something Horace Grant. No. Something this said to die, and the direct cut immediately. There's no pause. There's no thing. Everything. Horse did it. Horse said it. I was like, that's abrupt. That's very definitive. We're not nothing. No, just Horse did it. Okay. All right. Well, we're here. We know what Jordan's point is. What does everybody else have to say about it, right? Like, and so this one's very clear, right? Like this exists literally for Jordan to say Horse said it. It's his fault, and then for everybody else to just kind of go and ramble on, and for this to be brought up again. for whatever. But this is like directly like when you're like watching again. This is why I will not call it because just how this particular these scenes are cut. They're cut with a very, very, very specific intent. And at no point of it is to actually get to what actually really happened and who actually said what. That is not the intention of this segment at all. So, yeah, Jordan thinks Horse did it.
Yep.
That's what I know.
Point noted.
Yeah, I think the media, it's been interesting to see how this documentary has been covered and talked about from a standpoint that the information that you want to like the deep diving and digging has come from podcasts or old articles. This current media in 2020 has done nothing to challenge this documentary, which to me, I'm like, I get the fear that the media had on with Jordan in the 90s. Guys wanted to interview him, or they wanted to be on his good side, what have you, or just, that shit. I don't get the fear in 2020 of why that fear still exists.
So I tried. I just want everybody to know I tried in my head. I was trying. I was very, very hard trying. But that comment enrages me. It enrages me. I tried. I did. And the reason that it enrages me is because absolutely not. No, we're not gonna blame the media. This is a document. This is a quote unquote a documentary. This thing is supposed to answer questions. So this is not on anybody else's plate at all. At all. This is on the creators and the makers of it, of creating something that was generated to continue the whatever, the mythos. I mean, like that, like at the end of the day, damn all this other talk. This is and I was thinking when Chad was talking about fanatics and everything, like I kind of compare this to like this is about the swing voters. This side, Jordan lovers, nobody's going to move their opinion on Jordan based off of this at all. This is about reestablishing that myth with people who might not know, the slim sliver in here, the Ohios, if you will, who of undecided voters who just might be on the fence. This might tip them one way or other. They're hoping it tips them the Jordan way. That's number one. Number two is this is sanctioned and sponsored by the biggest media conglomerates in the world. I mean, like you on your screen, ESPN, Netflix, Disney, Netflix. It doesn't get bigger than that. There's no other, there's like what? You want Fox News to do some deep dive onto like this? There's like two small organizations otherwhere that are not owned by Disney and by the, like, no. This thing was created with an agenda, and everybody is going to push this agenda. The level of influence, we've talked about it, that Jordan had then was only so much because he was a player. The level of influence that the Jordan brand has now is enormous compared to what he had then. So who would want to go against that? No one. That's the answer. No one. Everybody wants to eat off of this. Everybody is complicit in this. Everybody wants this to go a certain type of way. So damn that. That's why I couldn't do it. This thing will go a certain way because everybody wants it to go a certain way. Everybody needs it to go a certain way. Also backed by Nike and everything. This has the hugest backing behind it.
Yeah, no, Rob said it perfectly. Everyone's complicit. This is about big business. This is not about the player on the court.
Nope.
This is not about the old guy, the Washington Wizards. This is about the brand and the money that comes with it. And the mystique also on a lower level, if God, rest his soul, if Prince was living right now. There's certain people that we never got a chance to get inside with. Because we never got a chance to get inside with, the mystique always lives, right? So anybody that can get anything from Jordan, whether we're talking 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, it's always going to be a big deal. This is why every analyst you've seen has defended everything they've seen, because everyone's still trying to be in this fictitious inner circle with Jordan. This is why I watched the documentary and I was so pissed watching the last two episodes and them trying to sell the narrative about the media. Like he was the first athlete or celebrity that what the fuck are we even talking about?
That's hilarious.
Like that was so disrespectful for me.
It's to have your cake and eat it too, right? Like it's like, oh, be like Mike meant be perfect. What? No.
Yep.
No, it didn't. I remember that. Be like Mike was like, I wanted to shoot the basketball and be a basketball player, right? And be rich and famous. Like that was the selling. It wasn't nothing about being perfect. So the fact is, like, you can't blame the damn commercial on the mistakes that he made and the reaction of people on the mistakes that he made. Like those two things can't happen simultaneously. The simple fact of the matter is Jordan loved the fame, just like everybody. I love the fame and I didn't want any of the consequences.
And that's the thing. I love the thing with no consequence. Yes. And although they talked about in the documentary, there was this passing of the torch when he became bigger than Ali. It's disrespectful when you think about the scrutiny that Muhammad Ali had to go through. Jordan never even can compare to the bullshit.
How dare him?
Like, it was like, what are we?
How dare you?
Man, I know you're gonna get into the gambling, but it's like, yeah. Anyway, let me stop right there. But I'm just saying, why do we have to find all of these fake ass stories? And like, I'm laughing. The only thing is, the whole thing has taught me a couple of things I already knew. We would say things like, "Damn, I wonder how some of these old heads like Michael Jordan would do in the social media era." He wouldn't play. That's how he would do. Jordan would not have been able to make it in this era, because he cannot take the public scrutiny about anything. And the stuff they were ever talking to him about was all basketball related to a certain degree. We weren't talking about the off-season gambling. We're saying, hey, we're in the middle of the conference finals right now. Can we put that in perspective? We're not just talking about leisure time. Hey, Jordan, you got a game tomorrow, but you're in Atlantic City. Can we talk about that? Is that off bounds? I'm sorry. Just want to know. The shit the players do now, this nigga didn't talk to the media for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he did. He put him on timeout.
I'm watching Steph Curry have to answer questions about his wife on social media. What she said.
Yep.
Get the fuck out of here. Fuck Jordan. I'm sorry. I'm done.
And when we going to get to the how, and you know what? Let me stop too.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's a perfect segue to the gambling. So
fuck Jordan is the perfect segue.
The gambling. Basically, I want to talk about the gambling. I want to talk about the fuck Jordan part. So Jordan goes to Atlantic City the night before Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, or Eastern Conference finals, against the New York Knicks, Chaz Knicks.
Knickerbockers.
In 1993, when they were championship caliber.
Championship caliber.
Yeah, they won. The Knicks, I thought the Knicks were going to win that series. I did think the Knicks were going to win that series. They were up 2-0. I thought the Knicks were going to win that series. In Game 2, he shoots 12 for 32, 36 points, 9 rebounds in a 96-91 loss. Game 3, he had 22 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, but only was 3 for 18. And he did not shoot the ball well in Game 1 as well. They won Game 3, of course. It would come back and win the series in 6 games. But I just wonder how this gambling thing was covered. Articles came out. People on talk radio was talking about it. But David Stern, and this is where, again, the power of Jordan, David Stern basically seemingly kind of glossed over it. Like, had a quasi meeting, and that was it. That was it. Like, we're not, you're involved. You get a check you write a check to a guy who ends up in jail and $57,000 check. One of the bail bondsmen ends up dead. So we just go We just go. He's like, oh, all right, Mike. Good luck in the playoffs. And what was the guy's name?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter.
Real quick, because I'm gonna let Chad go in on this one. This is where the impact is actually better than the intent, right? Because it's like all the questions you have about that story are fantastic ones. It's just like, how did he get like how is this possible that anybody got away? They wanted to light touch this one, but the questions they leave are fascinating questions that only lead to dark places. So that's the thing. But this is also another one where they actually do have that on tape. They have David Stern going, well, compared to the amount he was making versus the gambling, who cares? Who even cares?
Yeah.
Who even wonders about those things? So it's like, yeah. Nobody went against the Golden Boy. It's just that simple. Nobody went against the Golden Boy. And this one is not so necessarily Jordan using a power more than the organizations understanding the power of the black athlete, the basketball player at that time. They knew they had a golden goose. They just didn't know how many eggs and go like he could lay. So because of that, nobody gets to touch him. Nobody gets to talk to him. Nobody gets to say anything bad or anything negative about him. And when that did happen, like the side story of that, I would love to hear more about, was when Sam Smith was crying a little bit about how nobody liked him and nobody wanted to talk to him or anything like that. But what was the actual pressure that was put on him by the NBA and by all the other collaborators, the advertisers that were bound to lose money if Jordan didn't shine like he needed to shine for them. So that to me would have been like an interesting side story. But on this one, I was like, I know what you're trying to do, Jordan, but this one is leaving some fascinating holes. This one, like what I dead by. I was like, damn, I didn't know that. Like what? Well, Jordan, you out here having people killed? Like how deep does this go? Now I'm fascinated. That's what I want to dig up more. So this one actually played the reverse on the way that it wanted to go for me. All right, I'm done.
I don't even have a lot to say because I totally agree. This one was like a oops. This was an accident. This was an accident and it was a gift. Because I'm sitting here watching this shit. I was like, oh.
3 times.
I was like, well, hold on.
This is so shady.
This got accidentally real. This was, like to Rob's point, not at all the intent. This right here is like Tiger King. This gambling situation alone could have been a series.
Woo.
It could have been a 5-part series just in this conference finals alone.
Yep.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like, even to the point where he's talking to Ma Rashad with the shades on and all this other crazy stuff that's going on when he finally says, I'm ready to talk to the media. But to Rob's earlier point about the Republican comment, and there's missed opportunities. You know, without the jokes, this was also a missed opportunity. When Jordan says, I don't have a gambling problem, I have a competitive problem.
Yeah.
Now we can deep dive into addiction.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of nuggets that could have been revealed and jewels here. When you look into the side someone's psyche, like when you talk about addiction, it's not like it just starts with this person. Like where's the family tree here of what this competitive nature looks like? And to the point, like Jordan could be on the call right now. And you're like, yo, I can put a hoodie on tighter than you can. And you'd be like, yo, we just on a call. Like, okay. Like he's just that person that wants to compete and win and gamble at everything. And I'm watching it like, no, we cannot dismiss bodies showing up. We cannot dismiss that this dude was also supposedly a drug dealer and all of this stuff. He had a little, and everything about the guy looked like Tiger King. He had like a slick back, little Jerry curl situation or whatever you want to call it, S curl. And I'm like, yo. And then like I said, when I listened to Wilbon, it says, everybody's gambling. If we
Yeah.
look at America and the stats on
No problem.
casinos, I said, no, everybody's not gambling in the
Nothing.
middle. That's literally like any of us educators having 30-minute lunch break and ended up at, the casinos real quick. Like, no, I got a problem. I just, I had 30 minutes. So I went down there real quick and just got it in, got it out. But it goes back to this combination of
I'm a math teacher. I love math. Best mathematics at a casino.
this combination of the dark side or the real side and the lack of accountability and ownership with this person that you're propelling to be the complete image. I was fascinated when I hear about him just being tired to the point of like, yo, winning just became a checklist. I'm with him on that. I'm like, damn, that's deep. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I was just, like I said, that was a gift. I don't know if we'll get that again. It was like Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? To slip up. It was just nice. It was really nice and pretty for me to see this moment and be able to run it back as much as I want to. Because I was like, ooh, did he see this episode? I would love to know how Jordan signed off on that. I'm just curious. So
well, and that's the problem. Like so this is the analogy, Surreal, when you were talking about McNulty, Jordan, like being the characters. Like it's the gambling is his competitiveness and how his competitive leads into self-destructive behaviors. This is what would have been the appropriate way to or exploratory way to go about this. But from the addictive personality's mind, it's not a problem. It's never a problem. So the way to just get signed off on is because he loves that aspect of him. He loves that part of him. Yes. And because he lives in a bubble and people around him probably, amp this up, that more so the self-destructive part feeds into the competitive narrative. And that's how you can see that part going. What has always been fascinating for me is if it was about such a competitive thing, then like everything you would think Jordan would be trying to hustle people on the basketball court. Like at no point in time has anybody ever said Jordan's a great golfer. I haven't even heard Jordan's a good golfer. I haven't even heard Jordan's a scratch golfer. Jordan's an awful golfer where you could take him for lots of money. That is what it is. And that is the definition of a degenerative, problem, is something you're compulsively meant to do, even when very, very important things are going, something you compulsively do at the detriment of yourself. Right? There's not he makes hundreds of millions of dollars now, or even at that point in time, millions of dollars, but no millionaire loves losing thousands and thousands of dollars over and over again. And the best part about that piece was the quarter scene. Like a lot of people I see on the media are hyped over the dude going like this, and that was funny. But what's more funny is that Jordan's over there gambling over quarters and how close a quarter can touch a wall. That's fucking sick. That's sick. That's sick.
But did you see his reaction when he lost?
No, damn the reaction. Jordan is gambling with quarters touching a wall. Think about that.
Hold up. Think about He's gambling with quarters, what looks to be with hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Yeah, yes. The court is not about.
You put it all together.
Yeah. The gamble is, can I get that quarter as close to the wall without touching it? Real money's on the line. That's the bet. What the fuck? Who does that?
I loved it. I loved everything about that scene.
That was good.
I loved everything about that. This is what you do. Yo, I would love if the security guards directed this documentary. I want their tell-all story. That's what I want to hear from.
That'd be good.
But anyway, go ahead, Ril.
Oh man, yeah, nah, the Smith brothers. The Smith brothers. Yeah, nah.
Yo.
No, he was
That's
heated.
what you did, right?
He was so mad. He was so mad he lost.
But it was done like this is the part. Like that. I mean, like not to trivialize it, but that's how you know it's an addictive thing. It's he lost, and instead of doing the sensible thing and just reevaluating his life, like why am I gambling with quarters with these two
Yep.
who I can
Be
fucking buy?
stupid.
Like why am I doing any of this? That's the first part. Then the second one is I could just stop. Like I could just stop. This is stupid. I'm throwing quarters at a wall. I just stop. No. That's not how an addict thinks. He, in his sensible mind, what he said was, damn that. I bet I could get it closer to the wall, and I'm going to give you guys 2 more chances off of my one roll on that wall.
Because
And
he
they're
is
looking like, wait, your first rolls weren't good. I beat you that time. Now you're going to give me just unlimited chances to get past you? Yes. Yeah.
he's an addict with a godlike
Yes.
simplex, which
There
is
you go.
even
There
more.
you go.
So,
There
yeah.
you go. Which means, like, I mean, you want somebody like that on the poker table because you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
all the money. You can't wait for somebody like
Jordan
that.
could not wait to see him
Yes,
come down the
Jordan.
hallway. They were waiting to see Jordan come down the hallway.
Because while you out there playing your game, they in the back tossing the quarters close to the wall so they can get you for $500. You crazy person.
I'm dying. Oh my goodness.
So we
Okay.
get to we get to the '93 finals.
Of course we do. Of course we do.
Of course.
Who
See,
didn't need to relive the 90s?
Yeah, who didn't need to relive Barkley versus Jordan in '93? Great series, very close in terms of. I mean, obviously it was a 6-game series. The cumulative points were like tied. It was like 106.7 to 106.7. So it basically was even series. This gave Barkley his chance to eat off this documentary. If you're gonna lose. If you're gonna lose to Michael. He's the fastest gun in the West, the fastest gun in the NBA at that point. I bring this up because apparently this came out over the course of the week that he and Barkley are no longer friends, and that Barkley criticized him for being a bad owner, and also said that he had a bunch of kiss asses in his circle. And I'm like, if you're Charles Barkley, yeah, it's one thing to criticize him about being an owner, but if you say that he, has ass kisses in his circle, what do you expect? Like, what do you thought? What was that outcome going to be? And I mean, overall, in terms of that dynamic, I just don't think that they were ever really that close in Jordan's eyes. Maybe in Barkley's eyes, but not in Jordan's eyes.
I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I think, okay, you want to put things in context. Those two things did not happen at the same time. He disagreed and made not disparaging, he made regular criticisms about some Jordan's moves with the Bobcats.
Right.
Later on, after being apologetic, he came out talking about Jordan got flunkies around. It wasn't at the same time. Barkley has flip-flopped based off of Jordan's energy.
Right.
They were friends. Barkley being Barkley asked questions about the Bobcats. Jordan was offended. Barkley was apologetic. Jordan still was not responsive. Then Barkley goes on to say he has cronies around. And then, like, even when you watch, like, Barkley is still on this somewhat apology tour. He says, I wish that we could be friends again. It's unfortunate, and this and that. I don't completely, I said wholeheartedly I disagree with you, but it's like, you make a good point. It's really hard to know who's close to Jordan, right? Because it seems like everyone that's close to him is conditionally close to him. Phil Jackson's never come out to say anything negative about Jordan. He still loves Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? Like the people, there's no one that you know in Jordan's inner circle that has said anything negative about him.
No.
So it's just very, very unsettling. And it goes back to what I was telling you about Jordan being the most sensitive player in NBA history. Because I put him together. I'm like, okay, Isaiah didn't do the handshake. Barkley talked about his role as a GM, which was Barkley doing his job. And we lose a friendship over that. You know, so it's just like, damn, petty is not even a good enough word to describe how he harbors and holds on to certain things. And like Rob, when you left, it was like my question was, Ril said he doesn't think that they were close as Barkley thought they were. I question who knows what is close to Jordan.
Yeah.
Because it's like if we can't have honest conversations as friends, are we friends?
No.
I don't know what Jordan would define as a friend. Jordan's definition of a friend is everyone that tells me how great I am. So, whatever.
I mean, yeah, like what I heard, yes. I mean, like we had all heard that for a very long time. And so the thing that stuck out to me about we're not gonna talk about Marley, huh? We're not gonna talk about Dan.
We can talk about Marley. We can get back to Marley.
That's all. I mean, everything like the Charles, none of the Charles stuff was new, right? Like at all, zero. It was new. And so the like what really showed me Jordan's pettiness was Dan Marley, right? Like, cause like you bring up the Phoenix series so that you get that soundbite from Charles, where Charles says, I played my best and then Jordan was better, right? Like we've heard that.
You knew that was coming, yeah.
Play that, yeah. You play that to get that soundbite or whatever in there. But the thing with Dan Marley, I was like, what?
Left field.
What, Jordan? What are you talking about? And so like it was amusing to watch him and them create like another narrative of something that didn't even exist like ever. Like no one in the history of the world has ever said Dan Marley would be a great defender on Jordan or whatever Jordan was making up. And so like we have like this show will be a 10 episode of evidence of how petty and angry and a loner and just of Jordan is, and we'll have all types of that. All we had was the speech, was the Hall of Fame speech. Now we have 10 hours of other things that are on there. And so I mean, like, again, a deeper exploration of this would look like the thing that made him great, the winning and being thinking he's the best and everybody else is the enemy. How is that fair with him in life? And he's the loner, he's evil, he's bitter, blah blah blah, or whatever. Like Chad says, he's a demon. And so that would have been more of an exploration. In lieu of that, though, what we get is just lots and lots of petty shots. And so, yeah, if Jordan is willing to go after people like Dan Marley and make them enemies for imagined slights, then somebody who would be closer as a direct competitor or somebody he might see as somebody who's impeding his progress. I mean, Charles Barkley would barely have to say anything to piss Jordan off. There's honestly nothing outside of to what you were saying, Chad, kissing his ass, that's not going to get you on his shit list.
Yep. Waste of time.
So we haven't seen a lot of The Last Dance, which was the 1997, 98.
Also the name of the documentary.
The name of the documentary.
Yeah.
And was thinking about this over the last episode.
It's gonna be the final one. It'll be number 10.
No, what you mean? I've been coming at 7 and 8.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I was talking about when they'll actually get to the last dance. It'll be 10.
Yeah, more. Yeah. At this point, you're right. They're right on pace. I just don't think the reason why we're seeing all this other shit, besides the fact that the tear down Jordan, build him up, fight through adversity, the media, all this other shit. I just don't think they had a lot of material from that season. I just don't think they have a lot of material. And they're trying to stretch out this that the amount of material they have over the course of 10 episodes. I just don't think there's a lot there for 1997-98.
There's not a lot there to tell the story that they want to tell.
Yes.
There's a lot of
there's some yes. There's
not a lot of adversity as it relates to on the court stuff to pull from, which is why we're talking about Dan Marley, Clyde Drexler. We're making these slopes mountains out of nowhere. I'm curious though, are we going to show the Seattle Supersonics finals? Because that actually was really competitive, and Gary Payton held Jordan to 23 points a game, coming off an injury when he came into that. I'm just saying, like, if you really want to show some adversity, maybe. But no, I doubt it.
Hey, well, here's what's left in terms of where we at now. So the next episode, 2 episodes, are going to deal with the retirement and give Pippen some shine, a little bit more shine in terms of what he did that season while he was away. I did a podcast on the 95 Game 6 Orlando-Chicago when they beat Chicago. Jordan, in that series, put up some good numbers, but he was bad in Game 6 of that series, especially in the fourth quarter. Didn't play well in that game where Shaq and them took them out. That would be an opportunity to show a failure. Are they going to show that Orlando loss? That's the only time they lost from the time they started winning championships, or to Orlando in 95. Outside of that, there's no failures per se to show as far as, they won 3 straight after that. They went to Game 7 in 98 to Indiana, beat Karl Malone twice for Utah 97-98. I mean, we know it's going to end with the last shot. We already know that in 98. That's how it's going to end. But there's really not. I was very interested to see. I mean, they're going to show this baseball thing. I want to get back to why he retired, because there were a lot of theories going around with retirement. Did David Stern suspend him? Did his gambling debt, in terms of his father dying, because his father was murdered in the summer of 93. Everybody wants to paint the picture, the narrative that it was just pure exhaustion and he was tired of the media. You heard Magic say, y'all tell David Aldridge, y'all going to end up pushing him out because y'all keep picking on him.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wonder if they're going to go more into why he retired that first time.
I wonder why you wonder. As we sit here on the eve of episode 7 and 8, they've already foreshadowed what they're going to do. Like you said, the media pushed him out. He was exhausted. He was bullied with these unfair accusations and questions. So he needed some time apart. Like you said, it will be interesting to see how they play the Magic situation. I am, I'm very curious how they continue to spin situations. That's the only thing that I'm watching at this point. Like, this is fascinating to see how they're turning certain situations and the retirement, you know what I mean? And what Pippen was able to do without Jordan. So that is good TV. but they have been stretching this. Surreal, you said this offline about, and I'm paraphrasing, this being like a visual Hall of Fame speech, if you will. This is the cinematic version of that. Because when I looked at the Hall of Fame speech, and at the moment people laughed at it, how vindictive it was. But I said, damn, Jordan previewed how this story was going to be told with one anecdote. In the Hall of Fame speech, he amplified Byron Russell. Who gives a fuck about Byron Russell? In the speech, he was like, I'll never forget. He told me if I ever come back in the league. Who? He's not even like third team defensive. Like, what? And he made that in this speech a big deal. Like I said, if I ever come back, he's going to have to see me. Byron Russell's going to have to see you. What about Wesley? Who's the other guy with the big ears? And Hornacek? Who else? So he previewed how he creates these situations, and now we're seeing it in this show form. So just beware, Rob. When The Last Dance finally does air.
We'll say it.
No, I'm telling you, though. Oh. When you finally do see The Last Dance in episode 10.
Oh, I'm that part. Go ahead.
What?
Keep going.
No, I'm saying, I guarantee you 30 to 40% of that episode is going to be about Byron Russell. I'm telling you right now, just relax. 30 to 40% of episode 10 is going to be about Byron Russell. That's all.
That's fair. When I think about like how this could have been structured, right? Because like what you said about Jordan in terms of the athlete, he has a pretty spectacular career, and just there isn't a lot of adversity. He rose at the rate he was supposed to rose. He conquered, and then he stayed dominant. Like that's pretty close, open and shut. The big things to be explored were the other parts of him, right? Like, and if you just through like just the bullet points would have been father's death, gambling, and what was the third one? Retirement, right? Like, and two of those can go into it. Oh no, the Republicans wear sneakers. And so we've already seen how they've handled two of those. It's just going to be a light touch. This happened, blah, blah, blah. We're just going to go right past it in half an hour or so. It will be, I said this to you in a text, Chad. It will be, what I'm looking to see is how, and this is mean to say, but how they use his father's death. Like, is he so narcissistic to use his father's death as a prop because everything in this show is structured as, this is adversity, Jordan overcame it. This happened, Jordan overcame it. This happened, Jordan overcame it. And so if they can't find an emotional space to go to with that, then I'm just like, wow, this guy is just full on narcissist. Absolutely, they're not going into any nefarious or whatever. Like, no, none of that is happening. None of that is happening in there unless it's another happy accident. But that's what I'm actually really, really interested to see. Is I know how I would want that to be handled and how I would emotionally talk about it, and the places that I would go. So this will actually be very telling for me in terms of what type of person Jordan really, really is. If he's that much of a narcissist. So I've kind of like flipped the idea around of what I'm looking forward to in this series.
But you're not. I mean, you are, but you do know.
Yeah, I do know.
But it's still the shock as, are you going to do that?
And the how.
Yeah.
Because I do know, like this. I mean, like.
No, to your point.
We're too far for there to be some different type of narrative structure or things that are going to go on. Like, we know what this is. Absolutely. Without it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I will say real quick to your point, that's how I approached the episode when I allegedly heard it was going to be a Kobe tribute. I was like, no, this is going to be about Jordan, but I'm curious as how they're going to do it. And then I saw it.
Yep.
So I still was surprised at how I saw it.
Yep.
But I was not surprised that I saw it.
Yep.
So yes, I would be shocked if it was something different with the father. But yeah,
I want to see how. Like, I want to see. It just will be interesting to see how he does that.
Jordan,
how a human being can do that. That's very confusing.
Be like Mike.
Be like Mike.
Be like Mike. One last question before I let you go. It is May 8th, 2020. And we have gone at least, I would say, 60 days without sports. I'm not counting the Korean baseball that ESPN is showing.
I saw NBA players play live.
Horse. They were playing horse a couple weeks back. Are we going to see sports in 2021, college or pro?
2021? Like the entire year?
No, 2020, not 2021. The rest of 2020, for the rest of 2020.
I'm going to say yes. I was going to say no. I know they open up some facilities, right?
Yes, in the NBA. Yep.
And I'm not saying yes to say that that's a good decision. I'm just looking at the world we live in our society, and that's being impatient and privileged. And, with the way things are moving, I do think that there's going to be a situation where we'll see some form of sports opening up and things happening because there's so many people and there's so much pressure to get back to business as usual that eventually somebody's going to go out there and take the jump and say, you know what, we are ready. Here,
listening to you talk, Chad. Here's how I frame mine. I think it will be yes, but it will be staggered and very piecemeal, and it will be a lot of starts and stops.
I totally agree.
I do not think we will see anything like an NFL packed stadium and things just going on business as usual. Nope, not in 2020. Not in 2020. Because what people keep underestimating is, it's nice to say we want things back and here they are back at it. It's a whole nother thing to rebuild a public's confidence in going there. So can I see empty arena and we're doing this and we're putting this and like wrestling has been having empty arena stage shows and something like that, but that's not anything I want to see. And so like March Madness without the crowd, like I don't want to watch that. Like I really don't. Like I don't want to do. So anyway, that's what that sports as we knew it before. That's a while off. That's a while off. That's a while. All of that, none of this. And see, this is the problem because we're dealing with. Okay, well, see, now we're just talking. We're dealing with privileged white men in all of this, and so what they can't understand is just because I want it to happen doesn't make it so. Like this is not something that is built off of your desire and your privilege, like at all. And so until there is easy and consistent testing for everybody and a vaccine that is readily and available to everybody and everybody can feel confident of going back out and either themselves not getting sick or them making somebody else sick, then until that moment, we can't even start talking about seeing the consistent sports that we saw. There's too many people whose lives are in danger and whose health is in danger to be playing around with this just because I want to see somebody shoot a basketball.
Yeah, perfect answer. I mean, Surreal. Rewind. Nobody on this phone would have been like, you know what? If the NBA stops, They might try to play a game of horse. All right, that would never come up in conversation.
Nope.
It shows you, to amplify Rob's point, the level of desperation and privilege that goes with that. So yes, we will see some form of sports, but it will not be anything what we know sports to be. You know, in this year, I believe. There might be some 3-on-3 tournaments or some whatever, just East Coast games, division game situations. Who knows? But it's not going to work anyway because these all players got too many groupies anyway. They would, like I said, it would have to be a college situation where you all had to live on campus and you can't go home to any of these chicks, and it's ridiculous. Something stupid is going to happen, and it's going to be shown on ESPN.
Also, why not keep it an off season? Just extend it, and then we just report on. I know this is the Last Dance podcast. I know, but what's up with your boy Earl Thomas? Like that's entertainment. Let's eat off of that.
That's
Ooh.
a whole.
Ooh. Whoa. Yeah.
Hey, let's just keep the off season going. We'll collect 4 more of those incidents. You know what that made me think of?
Oh man.
Immediately, Chad, the RA story you tell. That just made me think about it. His wife must have heard that. I was like, not me.
Yeah.
Earl Thomas. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. Yeah. There will be sports. I would predict that the NFL will come back before anybody else. I think the NFL.
But see, that's why I'm saying, Cyril. It's just like, and I hear you, and I agree with that. But what will it look like? Like, are you saying sports just in terms of like the idea and notion of football will be back, or the actual game that we've seen on the field for the past few seasons?
No, I mean, there will be no fans in the stands. From that
That's not football. I'm not watching that.
right. Oh, so you wouldn't watch it with no fans in the stands?
No, I said I'm not watching that. That's not football. No. The crowd, like, all of this is a part of it for a reason. Why am I just going to watch the Bills play the Dolphins in an empty arena? What part of the game is that?
Yeah. No.
I don't want to see that. That's not football. It just isn't. Then I could just go to the park and watch the kids play.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the NFL I know is going to come back because they're greedy, and unfortunately somebody will get corona, and then they'll shut it down.
But honestly, that's been the most terrifying part about all this. They're all greedy. Like, let's not like this is $1 billion. Like, they all want more money. Like, that's not happening. So the fact that certain organizations early on said we're okay with losing hundreds of millions of dollars, that's when you know it's serious. That's when you know it's serious. So the NFL will try. I do not disagree with you at that. But if you're playing to empty arenas, how much money are you making?
Right. And at what cost?
Well, I mean, it depends on the sport. Baseball needs the fan revenue more than anybody. So
No. We're not talking just about need. We're talking about, like, the infamous saying and a lot of different things of maintaining the lifestyle we're used to.
Yep.
They're not just like, I'm not just happy having $5 billion. I don't want to go back to $3 billion. Like,
but
that's a lot.
But here's the thing about that though. They're going to lose money. They're not going to be making the same pay, making the same money that they were making. But in their eyes, they'd rather do $3 billion than nothing.
No. I get that. Go ahead, Chad.
No, my main point to what you're saying, Rob, though, is these are economic principles when you talk about risk management.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the bigger picture. When Rob brought up the public trust, God forbid someone, and you said it's real, contracts the coronavirus or something. Now the wait is even longer.
Yep.
To come back again. So forget 2021. Now we're sitting here 2022, 2023 type of situation. So like that's why you have all of these billionaires losing a lot of money. That shows you how serious that they're taking the situation, where it's like, okay, we can't risk it because of that fact.
The problem is inherent in the question that you asked, Cyril. It's not a bad question by you. It's how we think about things, right? You said, when do you think sports will be back? That's not how we should be thinking about it. It's like, when will the medical profession tell us the coronavirus is eradicated to the point where it's safe to go outside? It's safe to engage into athletics again. That should be the thought process, not when we want or when we think, but absolutely it's not.
And I gotta leave, but just real quick to Rob's point though, when we're asking questions and we want certain answers, it's based off our own intentions. I was watching first or whatever, and Stephen A. Smith was like, they were talking about the possibility of the NBA opening back up, and Van Gundy, Jeff Van Gundy made a statement saying it would be messy and mediocre play. Yeah. And Stephen A. Smith said, well, Jeff is saying that probably because he doesn't want the game to come back. And I'm not knocking him for not wanting the game to come back. And I'm listening to Stephen A. say, well, why would you make that assertion about Jeff Van Gundy? Because you want the game to come back? You know what I mean? So everybody has their intentions, and they're spewing their own perspective based off of what they want. So if you're in favor of the NFL, the NBA coming back, you're going to say, no, I think these players, as long as they get 2 weeks in to practice and can get their stamina back up and da-da-da-da, everybody has a case. But it's like, what are your intentions behind it, right? Because we're talking about the trust of the public. We didn't even get into the trust in the psyche of the players. It's not like that would be a universal thing that every player is like, yo, let's go and play. That's first and foremost. Some players like, nah, I'm not really trying to put myself in that situation. So it's so nuanced to make these blanket statements about what should or could happen. You know, the bottom line is whether, regardless of how we feel about it, do we think it's going to happen? You know what I mean? And I do think, and when I made a joke about watching horse and everything, because I've seen America and be desperate, because we know once we have 4 great weather days in a row, people are going to be outside. We know this is going to happen anyway. So people are going to push the envelope. We will see sports. We will see different things, but it just won't be the same way. Bottom line. So.
Good way to end it. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Ril Dil podcast with Rob Sapp, Cuddy Quinn.
Ril Dil.
You.
The Jordan Doc.
Fuck Jordan.
4 episodes left.
Be safe, be healthy.
Yes.
That was nice.
Be safe out here. Be safe out here. Yeah, definitely be safe. Don't go out based on us.
I apologize. Yeah, be safe, people.
Yeah, do not go out. Do not go out unless you have to. Please.
God bless.
Later.
All right.
All
right. As always, this is the Ril Dil podcast with Cyril Joel Quinn. Look out for my Wire podcast with Rob Sapp on Sunday. We will be breaking down episode 6 now. I think episode 7, the One Arrest. So we're on episode 7, One Arrest. I also came out with a podcast yesterday about Game 6 of Game 5 of the 1997 NBA Finals, Utah-Chicago. So you can check that out. And of course, this podcast will be available. What time is it now? Before I'll get it out get it out early tomorrow morning. Be safe. See you next time. I'm out.